Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Limitless Show. Today, my guest and I will be talking about her journey from numbing pain to sobriety. So if that's something that interests you, definitely listen up. I am so grateful that my guest reached out to me because we've had a lovely conversation already, and I can't wait for you to learn from her journey, from her truth, from her just, vulnerability, because that's something so amazing to me. Is when people can, share their stories so other people can learn from them and grow with them. So without further ado, thank you so much for being here, Whitney.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
If anyone's new to this show, basically the Limitless Show is where I bring a new guest on every single week, and we talk about a limitation they've had in their life and how they've overcome it, in the hopes of, if you're struggling with the same thing, what is said in this episode might help you. So today we're going to be talking about numbing pain, specifically with alcohol, to a life of sobriety and the transition that Whitney has taken. So the first question I kind of want to ask you, Whitney, is can you explain a bit to me and our audience, a bit of background on you about your limitation of numbing your pain?
Yeah, so the limitation of numbing my pain, it was really, me not wanting to feel my feelings for a long time. And I think that sometimes the lessons come so much later, right? Like I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was doing, but I was using substances so that I wasn't having to deal with and feel past pains and things that had happened in my life. And kind of came to a head at one point, where I realized that it was holding me back and just really not aligning with who I want to be in this life and ultimately like how I want to feel. And so the journey has been learning to fully feel my feelings. I think I used to be really good at talking about my feelings, and a lot of us can articulate, how we're feeling, but we're not actually feeling it in our body. So yeah, that's a little bit about, the journey.
I can really relate to that, even just saying that. My cousin passed away 2 years ago or so, but I still haven't felt them feelings. Like I can say that right now that she's passed away, but I'm totally ignoring my feelings to it, and I need to do that and I need to do the work. But when we do numb our feelings, they just bottle up, and if you don't feel them out, they're going to explode at some point. You've already kind of explained that not feeling your feelings, you weren't living a life that you wanted to, you weren't being the person that you wanted to be. How else did this limitation limit your life? How else did numbing your pain limit your life?
Yeah. And also, sorry to hear about your cousin. And a lot of this numbing for me came from losing my dad. So it was really like dealing with that grief process and wanting to kind of stuff it down. And yeah, oh, man, I get a little emotional talking about it, but yeah, I mean, it limited me, like I said, from really fully expressing myself. So I feel like there were a lot of, fears that I wanted to overcome and this bigger person that I really wanted to be. And I just feel like I had so much more to kind of offer the world, even as far as like making deeper connections. I feel like a lot of my friends at the time were kind of, party friends and a lot of just surface level, where, now being sober almost 2 years, I've gone so much deeper and just met people that are really on, a different level and kind of like evolved along with me. So
congratulations on 2 years. That's incredible, and something I hope you're feeling proud of. So congratulations.
thank you.
I'm interested just to ask you, what do you mean by you weren't like allowing yourself to be the person you wanted to be? What does that mean?
Again, I think a lot of this came for me in retrospect. Like at the time, sometimes we don't know exactly what we're doing. I was kind of just going through the motions and coming out of depression from the loss of my dad and all this. And I guess I just always felt intuitively inside of me like I'm this really bold person. I'm really enthusiastic and excitable. And I just had so much more to offer in life and so much more to do. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to explain, but I guess it was just this inner conflict kind of feeling that I was having of not being my full authentic self.
So I can't kind of wait to talk about your transition, because you're doing amazing things now. But what I want to ask you first is, what was your first step to sobriety? Because things like these can be pretty overwhelming. Like from a place of being where you are, or where you were, to where you want to be in any aspect of life, that can be quite overwhelming. And sometimes we kind of just need to focus on the first step. So what was your first step?
Yeah, the first step. I mean, I'm big on the why. So I think like for me, it was just getting really clear on the why for me. And I found that I'm a big list taker. So really step one for me was writing a list of why, and all the benefits, like all the positive benefits that I could see from letting go of this thing I felt like was holding me back and just kind of draining the life out of me, to be honest. So I got writing this list, and once I got into it, it just kept flowing and flowing. I mean, I can't even tell you, like, I had such a long list. And I think it's important just to remind ourselves of those things, because oftentimes when we're wanting to quit habits or allow space for something new in our life, we get so stuck on the thing, like the neediness for the thing, because we're so hardwired that way. And it's just like, it's been comfortable and safe for so long, and it's just a habit like any other. So really, checking back in with that list, like I would look at it often to remind myself of all the positive benefits. And again, just like that person that I really wanted to be.
That's really interesting, because when you said, I think about the why, what you're thinking about, from what I can hear, is you're thinking about why you want to, be sober, why this is so important to you, what you can gain from it. Because I'm very much about the why when overcoming things, but I'm more about the why am I doing it? Like, why am I doing the thing that harms me? What's the reason behind me doing these things? Because once I know why I'm doing these things, maybe I can do something differently or find a different habit that supports that thing. So that's really interesting, because obviously there's so many different steps so that people can take. But I love that, because especially in times when things get hard, you definitely need that forward focus why, to think, this is why I'm doing it. I need to stay motivated, or I at least need to stay on track, because there's so much, not riding on it, but there is so much that I can gain from this if I do stick to it.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, because like the whys that you mentioned, the deeper reasons of, why I was pushing down my pain, or why I didn't feel that it was okay to like fully feel my feelings and express myself, I guess that came much later. It was just more of this intuitive, like, kind of, I felt like I was fighting myself, like this is not right inside. And so, yeah, I think those whys came much further down the line.
The next question I'd really like to ask you, and this is my kind of favorite part of the conversation, interview, whatever you want to call it, because this is the part where the people watching can really, learn how maybe they can overcome this limitation themselves. So what we've obviously discussed the first step, but what are the things you did to kind of transition to overcome this limitation, to live your life of sobriety that you're living now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, because honestly, everything had to change for me, because alcohol was such a big part of everything I looked forward to doing. In my social circle, it was just like the norm, looking forward to Friday and going out to drink with friends and things like that. And so I really had to throw myself into kind of a new world of habits and hobbies, which was actually really pretty fun and exciting, and, just to explore new things. So there's this Buddhist temple that's really close to me in my neighborhood. And I had been walking by it for years and always kind of was interested. It's like, what's up with this place? I kind of want to check it out, And finally, when I got sober, I walked in there one day, and it's such a beautiful space. And so, yeah, I got really into meditation and met really, really great people there. And this kind of led me into yoga and getting really into physical movement and activity, which is not something that was like even in my vocab before. I literally used to be like, do people like working out? Like I didn't even understand it. So I think meditation and yoga for me were definitely the biggest tools in the beginning. And then also breath work, like just this like power that we have just to breathe. I've learned that we can really bring ourselves to states of calm and euphoria and all these different places just by tapping into our breath. So it's really, I guess, it's just about like being present.
And I'm interested to know, or just curious to know, why are these things important for sobriety?
They just take us out of our head and take us out of our thinking, and I think a lot of our a lot of our inner conflict, I guess I'll say. I don't want to say our problems, but you know, a lot of these struggles that we have are because I feel are because we're living in the past or we're living in the future. And so that's generally when our thoughts are like spiraling, right? And our thoughts are kind of ruling our life. So just being able to come into the present moment and kind of find more spaciousness in our mind, I think it's so helpful just to bring us back and just finding gratitude and the beauty in the here and now and not having to like look backwards or forward.
I do agree. A lot of our problems, and like obviously alcohol is only just one way to numb. There's so many other ways. Like I still, and it's bad, I still sometimes use food. That's my kind of substance that I consume at a large amount when I'm feeling all these different emotions. And it's definitely because I'm in my head, I'm not in my body. I'm thinking about the past, or I'm thinking about the future, and I'm not here right now. And yoga and meditation and breathing and all the things that you just said really do bring you to this present moment and make you ask the question, like, in this moment, is there actually a problem? And most of the time, in this moment right now that you're living, there is not a problem. It's in the past and it's in the future. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there any other ways that you believe people can, you know, transition from numbing pain to sobriety?
I think definitely looking at your social circle is a huge part of it. Maybe finding new friends, joining groups that really will support where you want to go, whether that's, you know, something spiritual like meditation or yoga, or also just spending time in nature, you know, more time outdoors and hiking and just taking walks and finding just new activities that really light you up and give you life rather than take it from you. Because that's what I feel like these things were doing for me.
I love that. A lot of the things that aren't good for us take our life, like take life away from us. Whereas when we're feeling life, like there's no other feeling, like you're actually feeling like you're living. And definitely, because I don't know if you agree, and you probably might not, and other people might not, but to me, things like me overeating, me, you know, eating when I'm unhappy, or maybe you drinking, like to numb your pain. I may be wrong, but for me, it's a habit. It's something that I've developed over time because that supports the emotion that I'm feeling right then. And that's all I've ever known how to support that emotion. So would you say that it's also looking at it as a habit and thinking, how else can I support myself other than numbing the pain? Would you say that's a way to overcome it and, you know, get past the limitation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anytime we can just self reflect and examine our everyday, you know, not that this was necessarily every day for me, but our most common behaviors and patterns, those habits, yeah, I think that's a huge way to overcome it.
And is it just, would you say that you changed your habit from maybe drinking to, you know, spending time doing yoga, living in the present, breathing? And these are habits that you changed and adapted to?
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely the way for me. It was just kind of like, I feel like it was kind of a shedding of my old self, which was a long time coming, you know, and just moving into kind of the new. And for me, it's helpful also just to focus on the future. And like the thing for me is like, I never knew what was going to be on the other side, right? So it can be scary and like, we don't know what's coming, but the transformation and the growth and the learning I've done in the last couple of years has been so worth it.
Something I do and I am interested is because I obviously can't speak to you, but things like sobriety, sometimes it can be a battle, not every single day in your instance, because you said it wasn't a daily thing, but for some people, sobriety can be a battle every single day. There's still things that you need to do to stay on your path or stay the way you want to go or still create the person that you want to be. What do you do now to, you know, support your sobriety? What could other people do to support themselves?
I mean, the biggest thing I can say is just continue doing things that really light you up, you know? And friends are so important, friends and family, you know, like really utilizing the tools that make you feel good in the moment. Like if I'm feeling a little down or just a little off, I now know I'm really in tune with the things that'll make me feel good. So it's like, okay, Whitney, just go take a walk. You know, you'll be better in 20 minutes. Or like call a really good friend. And that always lights me up. And like every time I get off the phone, I feel so much better.
Yeah, to do with that as well, what I've found is sometimes when you're in a negative state or a low vibration or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes you don't want to do those things, or sometimes you think to yourself, well, I don't actually have any of those things. So a good idea that I came by was making a list of things you enjoy doing when you're in a good mood, so that when that bad mood comes, because it's inevitable, like even the happiest of people do have sad moments, like you have that list to think, yeah, let's go through this. What could I do right now of these things? Could I read a chapter of a good book? Could I go for that walk? Could I listen to that upbeat music? Could I call a friend, as you said? I think that's a really good way to kind of, do the things that you love.
I love that. I said I'm a list maker, so I love that. And yeah, because sometimes when we're, feeling like we need something or feeling a little down, we can kind of forget, these things that do make us feel good. So definitely like having that quick check-in list and like, oh, okay, I can do this. I can use this tool. And just like going back to the breath, honestly, it's been the biggest, most powerful thing I think for me. Just sit and take 5 to 10 deep breaths, and I feel so just like renewed.
I've also been listening to a great podcast recently called School of Greatness by Lewis Howes, and he interviewed a brain person, can't remember what his name was, but he was saying the most scientifically proven way to calm yourself down the quickest is to inhale through your nose twice and let the breath out. It was a really interesting episode. Definitely go listen to it. But the reason for it was because, when you blow up a balloon, like sometimes you have to blow twice. It really opens up the something in the lungs. I'm really not scientific, but it's the most assured way to like calm yourself down. And, and when you're calm, you can get back into that present moment. And I've been trying it, and it actually has been working. I've just been doing like 2 or 3 breaths, like, and it's just like, it does kind of calm you down.
Yeah, and it's so fast, right? Like you said, 2 or 3 breaths and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I can get on with my life now, like stop overthinking. I'm interested to know, and I kind of asked this question to all of my kind of guests. I'm interested to know what you would say to your past self who was struggling with either numbing her pain or on this journey to sobriety. What would you say to her?
Oh, so many things. I would definitely say that it's strong to be vulnerable. We don't have to hold everything inside and bottle it up. Like there's so much release and so much healing in just talking about things and being able to release it. I think that's probably the biggest thing is like, don't bottle it up. Just like let it out, and everything passes in time. And, I'm thankful for that period in my life too. I don't have any regrets. So it's also just kind of like, this is going to pass and there's going to be so many lessons in it.
And on that note, I'm interested, how do you not bottle it up? How do you not numb the pain? Like, how do you let these pain out? Is it just you let it with someone you feel safe with? Do you write it in a journal? How do you let this pain out when you don't know how to do it?
Yeah, I think those are great ways. For me, talking has been probably the best for that. Journaling is a great tool. So if you really love journaling, then yeah, that's an amazing way to get it out. Since I'm more of a talker, I don't personally love journaling. I do think it's a great tool though. I like to record audio messages. So sometimes even if it's not about talking to a friend, it's just like physically releasing it out of my body, and it feels so much better. And crying, like allow yourself to cry, that's another way of not bottling it up, because a lot of times we hold that in, and this stuff really does get stuck in our bodies. I don't know if you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, but it's kind of about this. Yeah, like these stuck emotions, they keep the energy from moving and just keep us from flowing, and I think really moving forward in life. So it's like it has to come to the surface. It's so important, because anything that we don't look at, anything we don't want to face, it's gonna kind of keep showing up in our lives. So it really has to just release out into the air.
And what would you say to someone who's watching this who, knows that they want, or they have this conflict inside them, they want to be sober, they're not sure quite how to do it? What would you say to them?
I would say there's a reason why you're internally feeling that way, because if we felt okay and there was no shame or guilt attached to these behaviors, then we wouldn't even be thinking about it, right? So there's something deep intuitively inside of you, I think, that's telling you there is more, there's more to life, and that you can face it, that you can get beyond this stuff, and there's like such a brighter, future and other side.
And finally, have you got anything else that you'd like to say upon this subject?
Just that, it's a journey and it's really unique to everyone. It's so different for all of us. And I also really want to break the stigma that, you have to be an alcoholic to quit drinking. Because I think that is, I think a lot of people still think that. It's totally normal and okay, even if you're a casual drinker, to feel like it's maybe not benefiting you or you're not feeling your best, and just to kind of, let that go, to be your best self.
No, that's amazing, because I think there is definitely is a stigma around like you can only really be sober if you're, an alcoholic. But I think, and it is scientifically proven, that alcohol isn't the best thing for us. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm not saying it's good, but yeah, if that doesn't feel right for you, like I've had friends who just, alcohol just doesn't sit right with them, or it just doesn't feel right for them, so they're sober. So you do you, know what's best for you. I think at the end of the day, like you said, if you've got this internal thing going, it's going for a reason. Figure it out why. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And just on a last note, there's so many sober curious communities now too. So wherever, like anything, there's such a range, right, of where you might be on this scale. So checking on social media, Instagram or Facebook, checking for these like sober curious, sober sister societies, I think is really helpful too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. If Whitney has inspired you, or if you have any more questions, I will put all of her details in the description below. So please go have a conversation with her, get in contact with her if you want to, or just go check out her content, because she has some amazing things she's putting out into the world. So if you have enjoyed this, let us know by hitting that like button, putting a comment in the comments, subscribing, and pressing that bell button so you never miss an episode of The Limitless Show. I am so grateful for anyone watching, and most of all, I really appreciate you, Whitney. Thank you.